Anna Eleanor Roosevelt redefined the role of First Lady and what it means to be a woman in society. She inspired millions around the world with her work, especially females. Eleanor Roosevelt was dedicated to making sure women knew that men are no better than themselves, that they can achieve the things that men achieve. This concept empowered her to make the strong impact she did with human rights.
My grandmother took each of the girls in our family aside and told them that you have an obligation to make a difference in the world. You have to get involved in public life, whether it's in politics or charity or community groups. You have to do that. Now, she didn't do that with any of the boys. I think she thought the boys would do it on their own, but she needed to encourage the girls.
Eleanor Roosevelt was a firm believer that women should be as involved in politics and worldly pursuits as men are, because they are equal. She showed a lot of courage in her lifetime, surviving a dreadful childhood, conquering many obstacles along the way, yet still achieving numerous accomplishments inconceivable to women at her time.
Courage is more exhilarating than fear, and in the long run, it is easier. We do not have to become heroes overnight, just a step at a time, meeting each thing as it comes, seeing it's not as dreadful as it appeared, discovering we have the strength to stare it down.
Being strong and confident made her stand out from the women in her era, but she hadn't always possessed these qualities. Eleanor Roosevelt was born into a troubled family and was neglected as a child. At age 8, her mother died of diphtheria, and 2 years later, at age 10, Eleanor's father died of alcoholism. Being an orphan at only 10 years of age, these experiences traumatized her, and she yearned for unconditional love, but had no one to love her. At age 15, she was sent to the boarding school, Allenswood Academy, right outside of London, England, where she met a woman named Marie Silvestri, who changed her life forever.
And she wasn't given a whole lot of love as a child. She wasn't given a whole lot of any of the human possibilities that you brought up, the chances. And if you then think of Madame Silvestri, she certainly fought to give her chances in the school and I think, to help her to feel that she had a right to have opportunity. She had a right to make choices. She wasn't alone. And I'm sure she also gave her a lot of affection. And I think that was a quality that she needed. And love makes you strong.
Marie Silvestri, the head mistress at Allenswood, strived for students to be independent-minded, intellectually active, and socially conscious.
I think that she taught my grandmother to respect herself, and that if she respected herself, then she could spread that respect around. But it started her on that road of saying, well, I have something to offer, and so do all these other people, so let's work together.
On that road, she impacted the world around her in many ways, but most notably was with her work with human rights. When Franklin Delano Roosevelt died, Eleanor felt that her work was not finished. So did Harry Truman, Franklin's successor. He wished to appoint her as one of the United States delegates for the United Nations. Since the United Nations and their work deeply interested her, she willingly accepted. As the only female delegate in the UN, she was not accepted as a worthy companion by the males. But when she helped refugees of the war find a new country, Israel, that wouldn't be under the rule of the Soviet Union, she won the admiration of her colleagues. Eleanor was then unanimously nominated to draft the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. All countries were required to adhere to these rules and standards this document presented for how to treat others and citizens.
This Universal Declaration of Human Rights may well become the international Magna Carta of all men everywhere. Man must have freedom in which to develop his full stature and through common effort to raise the level of human dignity.
Eleanor drove the delegates on her committee to long work days for the writing of this international Magna Carta. The Declaration was adopted without a single dissenting vote. The entire General Assembly did something they never did before and haven't done since. They gave Eleanor, a single delegate, a standing ovation. Even though she was proud of her work in shaping the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, she knew that many countries wouldn't follow words on a single sheet of paper, and those words were not self-enforcing. She would tell the United Nations the real challenge was actually living and working in our countries for freedom and justice for each human being. She eagerly accepted this challenge, and her legacy is one that inspires many people today.
I think that sort of thing of saying that every human being has self-worth, has dignity, and can, if given the opportunity, make something of themselves is really the legacy.
Eleanor Roosevelt's legacy impacted the entire world. Due to the fact that she was the first woman to ever be appointed to the United Nations, Eleanor has inspired many women and other minorities throughout the world to be active participants in the politics, economics, and other government agencies in their own countries. She is a woman that is respected by minorities due to the fact that she was an advocate of human rights, or how you instinctively expect to be treated as a person. She was fighting so people can live freely, speak their mind, and be treated equally. She was persistent about that because she knew what it felt like to be ignored, and she identified with people who also felt ignored and who were in fact ignored. While she grew beyond the circumstances of her early life, she never lost the lessons of those experiences. They motivated her. Eleanor Roosevelt was a great leader, a unique trait for a woman of her time.
She lived a life of leadership, whether she was on the front lines or whether she was on the sidelines. She looked at leadership as something that was everyone's responsibility. Everybody has that capacity and everybody has that opportunity every day, in every hour.
Eleanor was and continues to be a woman that is a figure of perseverance and strength for many women and other people throughout the world. Perhaps great leaders do indeed have to come through adversity, to come through trials of fire, to become stronger than they would be without it. Even though her childhood was full of obstacles and bends in the road, Eleanor Roosevelt never gave up. Attending Allenswood Academy equipped Eleanor with the necessary qualities she needed to achieve the accomplishments she did and grant human rights for all. Later in her life, Eleanor paid tribute to Marie Silvestri when she said, "Whatever I have become had its seeds in those 3 years of contact with a liberal mind and strong personality." For Eleanor, a life without being useful was a life not worth living, which empowered her to have the impact she did with human rights. In a 1958 speech, Eleanor Roosevelt remarked, "Where, after all, do universal human rights begin? In small places, close to home. So close and so small that they cannot be seen on any map of the world. Yet they are the world of the individual person, the neighborhood he lives in, the school or college he attends, the factory, farm, or office where he works. Such are the places where every man, woman, and child seeks equal justice, equal opportunity, equal dignity without discrimination. Unless these rights have meaning there, they have little meaning anywhere. Without concerted citizen action to uphold them close to home, we shall look in vain for progress in the larger world."